Hey everyone, it is assembly time, so here we go. First we're going to look at our code and see how we were getting inputs and how we were showing it on the screen. After that, we're going to handle new lines when you press enter. I know I promised that we were going to show what the user typed in. We will in another video, but not this one. My goal is to try to keep these videos short. I want to try to keep them short and to the point so that when you're looking for it down the road and go, oh, how do you show a new line character when you press enter? Instead of having to go through a half-hour video or an hour or whatever, you have a shorter video. So let's get to it. You'll remember this from last time. We had our use 16-bit, our origin point. We talked about setting our graphics mode. The other videos talk about all of this. We have a character loop. When you have 0 in the AH register for that upper byte and you call 16H, it will store the key you pressed, at least the ASCII key, into AL. And then on AH, when you set it to E, or hexadecimal E, which is like the number, let's see, A, B, C, D, E, number 14, it will display whatever character is in AL. So we're getting AL, we're showing AL. And then we are looping that over and over to prove it works. When you type in things, it shows up on the screen. There we go. How cool is that? Well, today what we're going to do is we're going to actually handle, if they press enter, that it will do something. And that something that it will do is it will show, well, it'll move to a new line. It's the same as almost like putting in a \n in a modern language. So let's dive in. When we get our character, we're not going to show enter. So we'll do our if statement, if I can call it that, before we display our character on the screen. So right around here, let's create a label, and actually, let's tab all this over, because technically this is all inside of this loop, right? And just so we don't run out of room for our comments here, we're going to put in here a label called if key is enter, because that's what it will be. And inside of this loop, what we'll do, well, let's put an end if as well. Because if the, once the loop or the if statement is done, it needs to go somewhere. We can't do a call in this case, and you'll see why. We have to actually do a jump. So then we have to be able to jump back somewhere. And we'll cover that shortly. So if AL, so we're going to do a compare. What compare does is it subtracts a number from another number. So AL, whatever the user typed in, we want to find out if it's an enter key press. So if we look at the scan codes, these BIOS key codes here, when you do your scan code, we want enter. So here it is. Enter is going to put D, 0D or D, into the low byte, the AL. So, very cool. So if we do D into here, what this will do is it'll take AL minus D, and if it is 0, that means they're equivalent, and it will set the 0 flag. And if it's anything else, it will not set the 0 flag. So after you do the compare, we're going to say jump 0, and we'll say enter is pressed. Now what we're going to do is we're going to create a little if branching section. If branching section. This is where our ifs will take place, or our thens, elses, whatever you want to call it. And this is where our enter is pressed. I like to keep these things together so I know it's not part of setting up the screen or part of this halt process. Really should document this a little prettier, but maybe in time. And once we're done running this then, for lack of better thing, we'll say jump to end if. So if enter is pressed, come here, do a bunch of stuff. When you're done, go back here, and then it will display on the screen. Oh, wait a second though. We did not want to show enter on the screen because there's nothing to show. So we're actually going to change this. Our end if will go down here. And this is actually going to be an else. Enter key. I don't know what we should name it. That's good enough for now. So we only want to display it if it's not enter. So that's going to be an else statement, basically. And right now our enter is going to do nothing. But we are handling if it is enter. Well, let's make enter do something so we can actually test it and make sure that we're not just spinning our wheels and losing our minds. So we'll call this new line. What's a good name for new line? How about new line? I like it. Now, new line will have to move the cursor. So let's take a look at our favorite little BIOS interrupts on Wikipedia, and we're going to take a look at the 10H protocol because in here there is a set cursor position. Let's see if we can find more details on that. Set cursor position is 2, and I don't really care about this page number thing, but DH is the row and DL is the column. So the high bit in D is the row and the low bit is the column. So let's set our column first. So, well, I guess the first thing we need to do is into AH, we not want to move into because 2 is the little subroutine we want to run. And then after that, in DL, we're going to put in 0 because we want to go to the beginning of the line. We don't want to just keep ending up where we were last time or where we last left it. And in DH, this is going to be our row. Well, I mean, we could, the first time we run this, we're going to go to row 1. So we could put a 1 in there, but we wanted that to change. Every time we press enter, we want it to go down another row. So let's create a variable. So let's call this current row, and we'll set it to 1. So instead of this, what we're going to say is, instead of getting the address, we want to actually get the value. So instead of getting, well, when we build the binary file, I don't know, this might be row 30 something. We don't want to put 30 into DH. We want to put this number 1 that's stored at this location. So we use these little square brackets in the flat assembler to do that. All right, that should be all that we need. So now if we call 10H, it will move our cursor to the first row instead of the 0th row for the first time we ran this. However, we kind of want to do current row plus plus. So what we're going to do is we're going to increment DH. So it was at 1 because we stored it in here. Now we'll make it 2, but we need to store it back to where our actual variable is. So what we're going to do is we're going to move back into the current row whatever's in DH. And unlike jumping, this we actually can call and return. So this is going to be a little bit new. We haven't done this before either. But where we have enter is pressed, we're going to do call new line. And let's build this and see what happens. So if I put in test and I hit enter, I'm at a new line. Testing, hit enter, and I'm at a new line. Great. All right, so let's recap. That's a good chance for me to write these comments. This is just the beginning of our loop. I think it's pretty self-explanatory what we called it. This is checking if AL is enter, and we'll say set 0 flag if it is. After that, we're saying jump if it's 0. That's what JZ is, jump 0. To enter is pressed. So jump to enter is pressed if 0. I'll do 0 flag. We have an else statement. That's self-explanatory, I believe. And this code we did before, so that's nothing new. Very good. Now enter is pressed. This is, well, I'll actually comment to this. This is our first time we did an if statement. So then portion of our if statement. Call new line. So we're going to call our new line subroutine. And we're done. Go back and run the loop again. So now, that's pretty self-explanatory, I think. Now we've covered this. If it's if this is enter, jump down to here, do this stuff, and then come back here and run it again. The new line, let's talk about that real quick. So this is just our new line subroutine. 2 is the move cursor interrupt. Well, I don't really know what we call this. It's a subroutine, basically. It's an interrupt subroutine, basically. DL is the column position. DH is the row from current row, which is down here. Call display interrupt. Increment DH by 1. I like filling in these boxes. It's a good way of recapping. And after that, we're going to store DH back into the current row. Not the address, into the current row's actual value. So if you've worked with like C or C++, you know the difference between a pointer when you dereference it and the pointer's address itself. When we just have a label here, that's basically like a pointer. When we put these little brackets around it, that's like dereferencing it, which is the equivalent of putting the little asterisk in front of the pointer. And return to where you were called from. All right, so we have explained how to handle the enter key, and when you press enter, how to create a new line. I hope you found this video enjoyable, and I hope you learned something from it. We look forward to seeing you on the next video. The next video is the video where we're going to actually store what the user typed in, and then we will echo it back to them to show them that we were watching what they typed in. And then, as I said, another video after that, at some point, we will actually handle it where we'll compare the strings where they type in exit and it will end the program. So I look forward to seeing you in those videos. And until then, so enjoy programming and assembly and just keep playing around and experimenting. You're going to learn something new every single time.